It was the kind of morning where your boots stick in the mud before sunrise. The air was thick with sweat, even though the day had barely started. Soldiers moved in rows, lifting, shouting, running, just like every other day at the base. Orders were barked, mistakes punished, and no one had time to catch their breath. Among them was a new recruit, a woman. Smaller than most of the others, quieter too. She kept to herself, never asked for help, never talked much during meals. Most just called her Rookie or the girl. Some whispered that she wouldn't last a week. Others laughed behind her back, saying she'd slow them down. She didn't flinch at any of it. While others took short breaks, she kept running laps. While they groaned through push-ups, she did double. But it wasn't just the other soldiers she had to deal with. It was the man in charge. Colonel Davis. He'd been in the military longer than most of them had been alive. Big voice, big presence, and a sharp tongue that could tear through steel. He had a reputation, strict, old school, and proud. But with her, it was different. He didn't hide his dislike. From day one, he questioned her every move, gave her the worst chores, the longest watches, the heaviest gear. Said things like, "This isn't a place for soft people," and "Don't cry when it gets tough." She never cried. Still, he kept pushing her. Yelled louder, stood closer, pointed in her face. Sometimes you could see his veins bulge from his neck when he spoke to her. She didn't fight back, just looked him in the eye and said, "Yes, sir." Some of the soldiers thought she was scared. Others thought she was dumb for not quitting. But the truth was, she was waiting. One afternoon, after a long march in the heat, everyone gathered on the field. They were doing hand-to-hand drills. Pairs were lined up, practicing grips and breaks. The colonel walked around, shouting corrections, showing off his own moves. Then he got to her. She had just finished a flawless throw with her training partner. He stepped in, told her she was doing it wrong. She said respectfully that she was following protocol. That's when he lost it. He raised his voice so loud the entire field went silent. Walked up to her, chest puffed out, and got inches from her face. "Are you questioning me, Rookie?" he said. "No, sir," she replied. "I'm following instructions." "Wrong answer." He shoved her shoulder. "You think you're smarter than me? You think you're special?" She stood straight. "No, sir." The other soldiers stopped what they were doing. 50 pairs of eyes were now fixed on one thing: the colonel and the recruit. The tension was sharp. You could feel it in the air. Then the colonel said something no one expected. "People like you don't belong in my unit. Weak, software useless." Still, she said nothing. He raised his hand, not in warning, not to point, but to strike. It wasn't fast, but it was enough. Enough to make time feel like it slowed down. Some soldiers gasped. Others took a step forward but didn't move closer. No one had ever seen the colonel hit someone before, not like this, not during drills. She didn't move, not yet. Her jaw was tight, eyes steady, arms loose by her side. Everyone held their breath, and in that single moment, just before the strike could land, something inside her shifted. The colonel's hand was halfway up when she moved. No yelling, no warning, just motion. Her body turned slightly, and in one clean, trained step, she grabbed his wrist, twisted it inward, and dropped her weight. It was quick, almost too quick to see. But the sound that followed was unmistakable. A loud, sharp snap cut through the silence. The colonel dropped to the ground, his face twisted in pain. He clutched his arm, groaning. The confident, booming man who had dominated the training ground for years now lay in the dirt, gasping. The field stayed silent. Not a single soldier moved. Not even the wind dared to blow. 50 soldiers stood in shock, frozen where they were. No one spoke. She stepped back, hands raised slightly, breathing steady. Not shaking, not proud, just calm. One of the medics rushed forward. A couple of the senior officers ran across the field from the edge. No one looked at her. All eyes were on the colonel, still grimacing, holding his arm close to his chest. The commanding officer arrived moments later, face tense. He glanced at the colonel, then turned to her. What happened? She stood tall, voice steady. He attempted to strike me, sir. I reacted on instinct. I did not mean to cause harm, only to stop him. One of the soldiers nearby, still shocked, blurted out, "It's true, sir." He raised his hand first. We all saw it. Another one added, "She didn't even touch him until he tried to hit her." It was self-defense. The officer looked around. Soldiers nodded. Some spoke quietly, confirming what happened. The truth was out now, and it couldn't be twisted. The colonel was helped up by medics. His face was pale, sweat pouring down his forehead. He didn't say a word, didn't yell, didn't argue. Maybe he knew he had crossed a line. Maybe he knew he had finally met someone who wouldn't bow down. She was pulled aside and escorted to the main building, not under arrest, but for questioning. Procedure, nothing more. The officer walked beside her the whole time. Didn't say much, just looked at her once and said, "You did the right thing." That night, the entire base buzzed with whispers. Everyone had heard, everyone was talking. Some said she shouldn't have touched him. Others said she saved herself. Most just said the same thing over and over. She snapped his arm like it was nothing. By morning, something had shifted. The same soldiers who mocked her now nodded when they passed. Some even saluted without being asked. The laughter stopped. The whispers turned into quiet respect. No one dared test her again. Not because she was dangerous, but because she had shown them what real control looked like. She didn't brag, didn't gloat. She went back to training like nothing had happened. Same routine, same quiet focus. But now, when she walked past others in the mess hall or stood in formation, the air around her was different. They didn't see her as the girl anymore. They saw her as a soldier. And not because she fought back, but because she waited, endured, and only struck when there was no other choice. That's when people truly understood. The strongest ones don't start fights. They just end them, with precision and power and purpose.